the Southern Cascades in Sierra Nevadas, the majestic beauty of their forests, and the inspiration and spirit of their communities and their people. We are the Sierra-Cascade Logging Conference. This is our story. Over 70 years ago, loggers, foresters, and equipment dealers observed the success of the Pacific Logging Congress and its efforts that brought new safety standards and improved equipment to isolated foresters and loggers. A small group of individuals was determined to bring such an event to Southern Oregon and California. The first attempt, the Sugar Pine Conference in Klamath Falls, Oregon, failed for lack of participation. Encouraged by a letter from F.W. Tarr, a Chico, California Caterpillar dealer, several interested parties organized and held a conference at the Chico Airport on the 2nd through the 4th of February in 1950. This was the beginning of the Sierra-Cascade Logging Conference. The leaders demonstrated tenacity and perseverance that continued to improve the conference in the years to come.
The first logging conference, the first president was Harold Crane of Crane Mills, and we were off and running from then on. Fortunately, we had Wampy as the secretary manager. He had a great deal of guiding influence and a lot of humor.
That first conference was held in tents and airplane hangars during one of the decade's worst floods. Gene Dawson, a truck driver and equipment salesman, recalls this event.
And for 3 days it rained in Chico. But we had to have a bar, so I called our Fruhoff dealer here in Redding, and he said, I've got a brand new stainless steel 37-foot van in Sacramento, and you can use it if you bring it up. And went to Sacramento and got that trailer and then took it out to the airport in Chico. And that's where the bars set up and the drinking marathon started.
Water forced most of the attendees back into restaurants, where the equipment committee hosted a buffet dinner and cocktail parties that became a tradition of log pond and sawdust bowls, where people could meet, dance, and relax over drinks and dinner. Early conferences are remembered for the determination of its leaders, including Archie Wisnett, Harold Crane, F.W. Tarr, Bob Grimmett, as well as Swift, Jack and Bill Berry, and Lloyd Wampy Wambold. Leaders improved their communication infrastructure and overcame adverse weather conditions. Logging safety, new logging practices and regulations, and the display of new equipment and innovative technologies all provided support through the changing times encountered by the logging industry. In just a few years, the conference became an annual gathering place for friends and colleagues. For years, the conference was remembered as the primary annual vacation for attendees.
Well, you know, as a younger mother, too, it was nice just to get away for a while. And they were a little more formal then, so it was a chance to get out of your jeans and, and dress up and meet people you only saw once a year or twice a year. Yeah.
We met so many dear friends, lasting friends, and we just did relaxing and fun things. The wives particularly, while the men were meeting.
I was assigned to do Ladies' Day, and that was in the year 2000, and I've been in Ladies' Day ever since. We do try to make the ladies feel like they're special, to make sure they had something that was just for them to go to. They're part of the conference, and it's been very important to them.
Whenever there was an occasion, and it seems like there was always one, that somebody would have to break out in song. And I don't know how they always kind of turn around and put their finger on me, but we'd always break out in song and give it hell every time.
Harold Crane began a tradition of choosing a theme for the conference, a picture of the mixed pine logging industry. It was followed by other memorable themes that reflected the good times and the hardships that have been experienced in the logging industry. The conference was built on the early recognition of logging and equipment industry leaders. In 1950, the first news award was given to the media for outstanding coverage of the conference and the logging industry. This has been followed by presentations of awards in memory of John Jarrett, Roy Derrick Berridge, the Logger of the Year, and the Jim McCollum Memorial. In addition, numerous scholarships to local students and community projects have been funded by the conference over the years. As the conference grew and expanded, the locations were moved from Chico to Sacramento to Fresno, Anderson, and then to Reno, Nevada in 1972. After the success of that venue, the conference settled into a Nevada-California rotation that continued until the conference moved to Shasta County in 2004. The Sierra-Cascade Logging Conference meeting location at the California Exposition and State Fair in Sacramento provided the opportunity to become acquainted with fair officials. In 1971, SCLC board members planted tree seedlings at a site within the fairgrounds that would soon become the Cal Expo Forest Center. You can see those seedlings today as towering trees that provide shade and shelter to the thousands of visitors who receive free tree seedlings and valuable information about the sustainable forests and the benefits which they provide to our nation. This was just the beginning of a Sierra-Cascade Logging Conference public education and outreach efforts. Over the years, SCLC has presented programs both during and after the conference week, such as Education Day, High School FFA Forestry Competition, College Logging Sports, Wild Things Wildlife Show, Log Loading Competition, Excavator Rodeo, In-Woods Harvest Demonstration, and media events that have enriched the experience of countless conference attendees. Additional education events and programs are presented by other organizations, including California Women in Timber, California Forestry Challenge, Talk About Trees, Trees Are for People, and the Forest Institute for Teachers. All of these programs continue to be supported by the annual Sierra-Cascade Logging Conference Education Auction. Public education, particularly of our youth, is one of the highest SCLC goals today. Kathy Schmidt-Muse, the first SCLC woman president, expressed it this way.
We need to keep the scholarship funds up. We need to keep the education show up. That's what the conference is for now, is the education and scholarships. Without that, people are not going to know what the conference is.
A new tradition was started at the 1965 Sacramento Conference with the inclusion of the Tall Timber Tales Competition Breakfast. Later, the event was changed to the Gin Fizz Breakfast, and the Tall Tales event was discontinued in favor of inviting guest speakers. Those speakers have included notable names such as California Governor Edmund G. Brown, Governor Ronald Reagan, Richard Nixon, and Nevada Governors Paul Laxalt, Mike O'Callaghan, and Richard H. Bryan, and Sarah Palin, who spoke at the breakfast or other conference events. From the fun social events like the Ladies' Day Luncheon to the serious work of the Trucker Seminar, the Board of Directors have maintained a commitment to promote more than a place just to meet. They've assured opportunities for thousands of individuals to become involved in the activities of the forest products industry. SCLC has demonstrated goodwill and good logging for the benefit of all. Logging was never an easy profession. Dangerous work in remote areas was a problem throughout the industry that caused a loss of many eyes, body limbs, and lives.
One time I crawled up through the shovel. I was going to grease this place with a shovel, and it was on a side hill, and the shovel was like this, you know, and I had a swing brake on. And I started to grease that fitting. I couldn't get out, and I'm in the bottom part, and I'm sticking up through in the top part, and my hand was that close to hit that lever and knock that brake off, and that shovel would have turned right around and cut me right in half. You know? I thought, ooh, wait a minute. But somebody's got to tell you that stuff.
That little angel was sitting right there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Afterwards, that scared me.
Uncertainty in the markets, supply and demand, often made planning for the future very difficult. Many within the industry attempted to help.
But we did make a difference with those teachers and school superintendents from Southern California on those tours. Their number one comment was, "I would have never believed there were all these trees here. I thought all the trees in the Central Sierras were gone." And they just couldn't believe it.
But in the 1990s, the industry came face to face with its most powerful foe, the northern spotted owl. A lawsuit by the Audubon Society demanded a halt to logging near critical owl habitat as specified under the Endangered Species Act. A judge placed an injunction against the harvesting of hundreds of thousands of acres on federal forest lands throughout California and the Pacific Northwest. As a result, by the year 2000, California had lost over 100 sawmills out of a total of 140. Many of these sawmills had relied on federal timberlands for their wood supply. Mill closures devastated families and entire communities. The impact on the industry and the conference was far-reaching as suppliers and sponsors diminished in the years following the listing of the spotted owl.
And we were talking about the industry being forced out because of the spotted owl and all that. I mean, it was more than losing your job. You lost your identity. You know, one of the things that the industry people that I think that whether you're a choker setter, or a truck driver, dozer operator, or what, when you're a logger, it's not really a job. It's who you are.
The future of the Sierra-Cascade Logging Conference was uncertain. But like those early leaders, the board of directors never wavered in their commitment to carry the message of proper forest management. This included removal of fire-killed timber and thinning forest lands to minimize the impacts of catastrophic wildfires and conservation of our watersheds.
And I really enjoyed being on that board of directors. I can't remember how many years, but again, those were all quality people, all with the same goal in mind. And you'd have a board of directors meeting and everybody was on the same page and for the good of the conference, both on the equipment side as well as on the logging side.
Confidence in the loggers' ability was paramount to the achievements in the industry and SCLC.
I found a passion for the logging conference. It was a high priority in my life. Friends, made lifelong friends that really became like family.
Really met some great people. I mean, some characters in the industry. I mean, that I worked with, hardworking people, totally dedicated, believed in what they were doing, make the best product that you can, and do the best job that you can with the forest.
But the only thing that really kept me going in logging was not the money, just the love of the timber industry and the people that I worked with. I think that's one reason why I got along good with Dick Roseberry, because he was a real strict forester. He liked to save the trees, and he trained me when I started logging there. He trained me to save all the young reproduction we could.
I was given the John Jarrett Award, and when I got that, somebody asked me why I stayed involved with the logging industry and what I thought about loggers. And my comment was that I thought they were the hardest working, most honest people in business today. And that's just how I felt about the industry, and that's why over the years I've kept in touch with it. I've stayed involved in it and tried to help. I like it.
The loggers and the equipment people were really true patriotic Americans, right there.
To this day, the Sierra-Cascade Logging Conference continues their mission to educate the public of the need for sustainable logging on California and Oregon forest lands. The leadership by the Equipment Committee and Board of Directors in the early years and during the latest crises was key to the perpetuation of the conference.
I really credit the Equipment Committee for coming forward when all these changes were taking place to try to make the best of what they could with the resources available to them. Had it not been for the Equipment Committee, the equipment side of our conference, we probably would not exist as a Sierra-Cascade Logging Conference.
So we continue to change, and if we stay static, we're not going to succeed. We've got to figure out how do we grow the conference, how do we improve the conference, and it will be through change. But I can't tell you what the change is.
The inclusion of the construction industry has been a welcome addition.
And I think it's time to come back to the theme of united, confident, and courageous. I think it's a good time. We've got some good years ahead of us, and in fact, I think we have our greatest years ahead of us. There are young people coming in to take our places, and they need to be confident. We need to instill that in them. We have great loggers, great industry, and we have an environmental group that's hurt us for a long time that are finally now starting to see, hey, without these folks, without managing these forests, they are going to burn up. So we have a lot of things coming together right now that can point toward a much brighter future.
Under a rain-soaked tent in Chico in 1950, Harold Crane stated, "We will make this body one of the most useful and most outstanding organizations in our industry." He'd be proud today to see the conference with its hundreds of students who come to learn about the industry and its ever-growing equipment display. Today, our story looks to the future as we continue to bring together a unique and diversified group of dedicated people who promote the practices that sustain healthy forests and healthy communities in California and Oregon. We are the Sierra-Cascade Logging Conference. This is our story. Join us in writing the next chapter.